Hello everyone, Angie here from your Imaging and Workflow class. In this video I want to show you something called View Options in Lightroom. View Options refers to the information in the top corner of the photo or the top corner of a cell when you're in grid view. Some of the information can include the file name, lens used, and camera settings. It's the metadata really, but it's showing all of the time instead of having to go to the library module and look at the right panel to see your metadata. Now when you start a new catalog, that information may not be there, or it may not be the information that you want. I'm just going to show you how to, first of all, get it to show, and second, how to get the information you want in there. Go to the View menu at the top and click on View Options. That will bring up this menu. We'll just go through it together. There are two tabs at the top, Grid View and Loop View. The options under each of the tabs refers to what you're going to see when you're either in grid view or what you're going to see when you're in loop view when you're in the library module. When you're in the develop module, only the loop view options will be applicable because loop view is the only view there is in the develop module. I'll demonstrate that shortly. So let's just start with the grid view, which is what we're currently seeing in the background here. If we start at the top, you can see I have a checkbox for Show Grid Extras. You can see in real time the changes that you make to the menu. So if I uncheck the box, Show Grid Extras, you can see it turns off any of the information currently showing, and you end up with simply gray boxes or what's known as cells. I'm going to turn it back on so that we can see what we're doing. The first drop-down menu gives you the choice of compact cells or expanded cells. Compact cells are just a little more of a streamlined view than expanded cells. You can see that when I choose compact cells, or if I choose expanded cells. Expanded cells just shows a little more information. We'll just leave it on compact cells for now. So let's go down to Options. The first item here is Show Clickable Items on Mouse Over Only. That just means that anything you could click on to activate, such as flags, rotation handles, star rating, and color labels, won't be visible unless you roll your mouse over them. You can see that when I check it and uncheck it. I'm going to leave that check for now so that I can show you how it works. See, once I scroll over a cell, the clickable items appear. Now if I were to go back and uncheck the Show Clickable Items on Mouse Over Only box, you can now see all of the icons available to us with the current options we have selected, and that's the way I like it. The next item down is Tint Grid Cells with label colors. And then out to the right it currently shows 20%. But you can choose between the 10, 20, 30, 40, or 50% opacity. What this does is shows the color label as the full color of the cell instead of the gray if you have a color label applied to a photo. You can then change the opacity of how it shows when looking at grid view. And there is exactly what it does. Show Image Info Tooltips. This is what you see when you hover over something in the interface, such as the rotation handles and that sort of thing. We'll turn off the View Options menu so I can show you what I mean here. When hovering over the rotation handles, it tells me what it is. When I hover over the flag area, it tells me what it is. There are many things that will give you information when you hover over the mouse over them. If you're not sure what something is, just hover over it. It might tell you exactly what it is. Now, we'll go back to View Options. Cell Icons. All of these items here are just icons that show within the image cells. You're familiar with flags. The thumbnail badges is just the black icons that show up along the bottoms of the images if you have it checked. Badges are used for a few different things. One tells you there's been adjustments made to the image. One tells you there are keywords applied. Another is to let you know that the image is part of a collection. There may be others, but these are the ones that I just know off the top of my head. Unsaved metadata. If you check that box, you'll see an icon in the top right corner of the image cell that looks like this. What that does is, if there's been an adjustment made to the image within Lightroom, and you click on this icon, it will give you a pop-up menu that says, the metadata for this photo has been changed in Lightroom. save the changes to disk. You can either click Save or Cancel. If you click on Save, it will write the adjustments to the XMP file for the image. What that means is if you were to open the RAW file or the DNG file in either Adobe Camera Raw or Bridge or any other program that can read RAW images, it will reflect the adjustments that you had made in Lightroom. Now, without exporting the image from Lightroom, you can work on the Lightroom adjusted image within Photoshop. Don't be misled though, you can do that anyway by right-clicking on an image in Lightroom and choosing Edit In and then Photoshop CC or whatever version of Photoshop you may have. It will open it in Photoshop. Then when you're done editing in Photoshop, you hit Save and close the image. You can then go back to Lightroom and see that the copy of the Photoshop edited image has been added to Lightroom. You can make it so that the metadata will always be written to the XMP file if you think it's something you'd like. You just go to the Edit menu, then Catalog Settings, and then check the Automatically Write Changes into XMP box. It actually tells you right underneath it that unless you check the box, changes you make in Lightroom will not automatically be visible in other applications. We'll go through the catalog settings in more detail in the Lightroom Preferences video. Once you've checked the box, just click OK and you can carry on with the view options. Keep in mind, writing the new metadata to the XMP file is not altering your image, your original image either. An XMP is what's known as a sidecar file. It's stored separately from the photo or beside it. Well, sidecar, that's where it comes from. And it's the way that Lightroom or any other RAW editing software stores its text files about what you want done to the image. Now don't get too hung up on this feature either though. I have not used Adobe Camera Raw or any other program for that matter to edit my RAW files in a very long time. I only use Lightroom and that's it. Because of that, it really doesn't matter whether or not I'm having my adjustments written to my XMP files. So I have completely ignored this feature for, like I said, a very long time. Back in the View options, the next item under the Unsaved Metadata box is Quick Collection Markers. That is when you hover over an image and see the little gray circle appear in the upper right corner of the image. When clicked, Lightroom copies that photo into what's known as a quick collection. Those are helpful for maybe saving images to another folder as you edit that you may want to use on your website or something. You may come up with another use for it, but that's what I would use it for. Now you'll notice that I have mine unchecked right now. I leave mine unchecked because that way I can't accidentally click on it and send random photos to the quick collection. I do that all the time in class. I don't currently use quick collections, so I don't have a need to have that circle present on the images, but I'm just going to check it for a moment so that I can show you how it works. When you click the circle, it stays lit in gray in the top right corner of the image. I'll choose a few images here for Quick Collection. To access your Quick Collections folder, just go to the left side of the interface to Catalog and then to Quick Collection. It will show you all of the images you have marked with the gray circle for Quick Collection. It's kind of like another filter. Now going back to the View options, I'm going to uncheck that option because I don't use it. I can still send images to the Quick Collection even without having that option by either right-clicking on an image and choosing Add to Quick Collection or by simply hitting the letter B. If you hit the letter B as in boy by accident and send an image to the Quick Collection that you don't want to, there'll be a little pop-up that says Sent to Quick Collection or something like that. You can just take it back out of the Quick Collection by hitting the letter B again. I know this because, again, I do it all the time. Moving down to Compact Cell Extras. Up to this point, any choices we've made in the options above will be visible, regardless of whether we're in Compact Cell mode or Expanded Cell mode. In this section, we will choose what we would like to see in the compact cell mode only, so we'll need to make sure our drop-down at the top is set to compact cells. We have index number. The index number is the number you currently see in the top left corner of the image cell. Regardless of what your image or file name is, these index numbers start at 1 and count up until it gets to the last image. It's a great way for us to reference photos while working with them together during class because they're easier to see and to find quickly, but other than that, I really don't see a use for them. If you want to know how many photos you have in any given folder, you can just look down at the bottom of the screen and see the number here. It will just be up to your personal preference as to whether you have it checked or not. Then we have rotation. With that checked, you can see the rotation handles in the bottom corners of the image cells so that you can quickly highlight images and then just click on the handles to rotate. If you choose to have the rotation box unchecked and not show the rotation handles in the bottom of the images, you can still rotate the images by right-clicking on the image and choosing rotate left or rotate right. I like mine visible, so I'll leave mine checked. Now we have a top label and a bottom label. You can easily see what having those checked or unchecked will do. You just don't see any information in either the top or the bottom. However, if you choose to have them checked, you can choose the information you see from the two drop-down menus here to the right. As you can see, there are a lot of options to choose from. The ones I like best are file name on the top and lens setting on the bottom. The difference between file name and file base name that you see here are that the file name shows your file name and the file format extension after it. If you were to choose file base name, it shows you the file name without the format extension. You can experiment with all different settings to see which ones you like the best. The next section is for expanded cells extras. You'll see that the terms used are what has changed here. Instead of top label, like you have in the compact cells extras section, you now have show header with labels. And instead of bottom labels, you have a rating footer. Here you can choose similar options to the compact cell extras. So let's go up and change our drop down to expanded cells so that we can see what effect we're having on the information in the cells. The settings I've chosen here are my favorites: file name, lens setting, exposure and ISO, and finally camera. Again, you have many options to choose from in this section, but you can't necessarily see all of the information you've chosen though unless your thumbnails are big enough. In the rating footer section, I like to include the color label and the rotation buttons, but here's just another personal preference. This is just another spot that enables you to turn the rotation handles off or on, so yes, it is a repetition here. We can now move to the Loop View tab. The view will automatically change to Loop View in the background here, and you can see the information we're working with over here on the top left-hand corner. Again, you can choose to show or not to show the info overlay by checking or unchecking the box here. You also have a choice of Info 1 and Info 2, so you can set up two different sets of options that may be based, for example, on the types of photos you're working on. I've got them each showing different information so that you can see the difference when I toggle between the two. I'm going to make sure this drop-down is set to Info 1 while I set up the options for Loop Info 1 so I can see what's happening. The information I have set for Info 1 are my favorites and are almost identical to the ones I've chosen for the the grid view options. The file name and copy name, exposure and ISO, and the lens setting. If I were to make a change for the information in the menu, or to the information in the menu, you'll immediately see the change over here. I'm just going to change that back because I like the way I had it. To set up Loop Info 2, I'll just change the drop down to Info 2 and go ahead and decide on what options I'd like to have visible when Info 2 is selected. Again, I can go through and make changes if I'd like, and then choose which I would like to be showing before exiting the menu. Before exiting though, I'd like to show you one other thing. I'd mentioned earlier that the Loop View is the only view available in the Develop module. When we opened this View Options menu, we were in the Library module. In that menu, we can see the Grid View and Loop View tabs. This Loop View menu is actually the same one you'll see in the Develop module. I'll show you what I mean. Just make a mental note here of the information I have showing in Loop Info 2, and we'll choose Info 2 from the drop-down menu. We have Folder, Exposure, and Camera Model. Now when we exit, because we have Info 2 chosen in the drop-down at the top, Info 2 will be what's shown in the top left corner here. Let's exit and go to the Develop module now. Again, we can go to the View tab at the top and choose View Options. Oh, look, we no longer have Grid View and Loop View tabs because, as I mentioned, Loop View is your only option in the Develop module. See, the only icon we have at the bottom here is the Loop View. We also have the Before and After View icon, but that's different from Loop View and Grid View. Now, if I were to make a change here, let's say change Camera Model to just Camera, you can see the change here on the left, and then if we exit and go back to the Library module, go to View, View Options. In the Loop View tab, you can see that our camera model in Info 2 that we had before has changed to Camera. My point here is that whatever we do in the Loop View options, whether we're in the Library module or the Develop module, the change is universal across Lightroom. Now the message down at the bottom here that says Show Message when loading or rendering photos, when checked, just shows a message when photos are loading to let you know that they're still loading and that the quality you're seeing is not the actual quality as of yet. If you don't have it checked, your photo may be blurry when it's loading, and if you aren't aware that it's still loading, you'll think your photo is blurry and possibly mark it as rejected and subsequently delete it. I think it's good to have it checked. The last thing in this video I'd like to show you is some of the overlay options. When you're in Loop View in either the Library module or Develop module, if you go again to the View tab at the top and down to Loop Overlay and click Show, you can now see a grid on your photo. With Show checked, you also have a couple of other options. The only thing I don't like about it is that whenever you check something here, the menu disappears. And if you want another option, you have to go back up to the View tab again. Anyway, we'll go back to the View tab, back down to Loop Overlay, and you can see here you also have an option for guides. Checking that puts heavier lines across the vertical and horizontal centers if you think that will be helpful for the particular task you're doing. You also, if you go back to the View tab again and down to Loop Overlay, have something called Layout Image. This will enable you to choose an image from your computer to overlay on your photo as a guide. It has to be a PNG image though, which we all know is a format used to preserve transparency. So let's say I had a PNG file on my desktop of the golden spiral that can be used for composition. I would click Choose Layout Image, at which point it brings up my browser. I'll navigate to my desktop where I have the golden spiral PNG image. I'll click on it and presto, it is now overlaid on your image and you can use it for cropping and that sort of thing. You won't be able to see it while you're using the crop tool though. This, of course, is not a great example for the overlay, but I'm sure there are many different uses for it. There is, however, a better way to get the overlay of the golden spiral when you're cropping, which I'll show you shortly. Now, if you wanted to use a different image you have saved on your computer, you would just go to that Choose Layout Image again and choose a different image. To make it go away, just go to the View tab, down to Loop Overlay, and uncheck Layout Image. So now that you have the information you'd like to see in your overlay, you don't always have to go to the View Options menu in order to change whether you see Info 1 or Info 2. You can just go to the View tab, down to Loop Info, and choose either Info 1 or Info 2. If you want to quickly toggle between the two, you can see the shortcut as shown here is the letter I. If I close this menu and hit the letter I can quickly change back and forth. Much easier. Getting back to that golden spiral view while cropping, I'm going to show you how to do that as well in this video because really it falls into view options or overlays. This one can be kind of tricky to get so that it's visible. I think they should have made it a little easier to access, but anyway, here goes. So if you go to the Tools tab at the top and go down to Crop Guide Overlay, you'll see a bunch of different options for just that, but they're all grayed out. So how do you choose the one you want? First of all, you have to have the crop tool active in the Develop module before attempting to change any of these settings. If I go over and select the crop tool, I can now go back to the Tools tab at the top, down to Crop Guide Overlay, and now you can select the option you want. But wait, I still don't see the golden spiral on my image. Oh, but if I click on the corner of the crop guide as if I was going to crop, the golden spiral appears. The reason for that is if I go to my Tools tab again and down to the Tool Overlay, Auto Show is currently checked. Auto Show just means that it will only show when you are at certain times. So for instance, if I click on the crop guide, if I were to change that to always show, the spiral, or whichever overlay I have chosen at the time, will always show instead of being visible when I have only when I have my cursor on the crop guides. Now if I just want to quickly and temporarily get rid of the spiral to see my image behind, you can hit the letter H for hide, and that will toggle the overlay on and off. Okay, so that's it for this video. Hope you found it helpful. Don't forget to check out the video on Lightroom preferences, which will cover a whole slew of other options available to you. Bye for now.